KODY Brown's casting for Special Forces is a bold move to change the legacy of Sister Wives. Special Forces, world's toughest test, has already taken down Olympians, pro athletes, and reality stars. And then they spit them out. But for Season 4, Sister Wives star KODY Brown is getting down and dirty, not just to stay alive but also to take back control of how the world sees him. He isn't trying to cross the finish line, he's trying to find redemption. Brown is one of the most controversial figures in the genre, and he joins an interesting list of athletes, actors, and reality stars who are putting themselves to the test, including Teresa Giudice and her daughter Gia Giudice from The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Jussie Smollett, Eva Marcille from The Real Housewives of Atlanta and America's Next Top Model, and Brittany Cartwright from The Valley. Brown's appearance is more important than many of the other stars because he is a celebrity. Sister Women is about Brown and his polygamous family, which has 4 women and 18 kids. He is alone this time. With Sister Wives out of the picture, Special Forces, world's toughest test, gives him a chance to start again. As the celebrities face this ultimate challenge, Brown's past weighs heavily on him. Brown has been sharing his life with viewers since 2010, when his family started to fall apart. In the series' shocking tell-all special, Brown said that he wanted to move out of the country with Robin Brown, thus ending his marriage to his estranged wives and their children. This new piece of information makes him want to run away from his issues even more. Maybe this new Special Forces mission will help him figure out how to deal with his difficulties head-on. When pressed to talk about his failed marriages during the 4-part tell-all, he blamed the ladies instead of taking responsibility for his part at the end. He also showed that he wasn't responsible by not answering several questions. Now, he has a chance to reverse all of that. He always needs to change the story to fit his requirements, but this fresh chance won't provide him the same chance. There is no space for excuses on Special Forces, as we have seen during the show's history. Rudy Reyes, Mark Billy Billingham, Jason Foxy Fox, and Jovan Q. Quarles, who are all agents for directing staff, DS, will definitely hold his feet to the fire or tell him to pack it up and leave. Special Forces, world's toughest test, follows recruits as they learn the art of getting comfortable with being uncomfortable through training challenges across Morocco's desert terrain. Some of the challenges this season are a supply search in an abandoned village where they have to race to get out, a dangerous rat run through dark and narrow tunnels, a plain shell dunk drill where recruits will be submerged underwater and have to get out, and a death-defying crossing of a ladder between buildings 50 feet above the ground. Brown loses the conveniences he's used to, like a multi-million-dollar house, when he goes to Morocco. To change his future, he will have to give up everything and think about his past. The full cast of recruits includes Brittany Cartwright, Randall Cobb, Eric Decker, Jesse James Decker, Andrew East, Sean Johnson East, Mark Estes, Gia Giudice, Teresa Giudice, Chanel Iman, Brianna Chicken Fry LaPaglia, Eva Marcille, Johnny Manziel, Ravi V. Patel, Christy Pierce Rampone, and Nick Young. But the late afternoon sun came through the blinds of Janelle's new Flagstaff apartment, making long shadows on the bare walls. It was peaceful, but not the kind of quiet that comes from being alone. It was the kind of quiet that comes from starting over. The soft light from her favorite lemon-scented candle mixed with the smell of brewing coffee on the counter. Janelle had always liked the concept of keeping things simple and making a space just for herself. She had been expecting the knock on the door, but it still scared her. She straightened her cardigan, walked over, and opened the door. KODY stood there with his hands in his jacket pockets, looking around the hallway in an awkward way before looking into her eyes. He looked worn out, not just from the drive but also from the months of emotional turmoil. "Hey," he murmured in a gentle voice. "Hey," she said, moving out of the way. "Come on in." The apartment wasn't very big, but it was hers. A little 2-bedroom with a small balcony that looked out over a row of pine trees. KODY stepped inside slowly and looked at the stacked books on the dining table, the beautifully folded quilt on the couch, and the picture of their kids on the wall. "It's quiet," he remarked with a half-smile. "Peaceful, you mean?" she said, arching an eyebrow. She didn't sound angry. She just said the truth. He nodded and rubbed the back of his neck. "I guess I just didn't expect this. You live in a place like this." She crossed her arms and questioned, "You mean by myself?" He let out a sigh. "No, I didn't think it would happen so quickly that you would really leave." Janelle leaned on the counter in the kitchen. "I didn't leave, Kody. I moved on." There was a pause between them, the kind that holds all the things that weren't said. Years of shared memories, like kids, road trips, family dinners, and late-night discussions, all mixed together in the quiet. "Finally," he remarked, "I don't even know what we are anymore." "We're parents," she replied softly. "We will always be. But I needed space, and you weren't listening to me anymore." Kody looked down. "I thought you were happy with your life and your family," she said. "I was happy with my family, but I didn't like how invisible I was getting. Every time I tried to say something, it felt like I was talking to a wall. I just wanted to feel alive again." Kody sat on the couch's edge and played with his wedding ring. There had been a growing emotional gap between them for years, even before Christine departed and the public conflict started. He inquired softly, "Do you hate me?" Janelle's eyes became softer. "No. I don't think I could ever hate you. I just realized that I can love you from here, from a distance, without giving up my life." He swallowed hard and nodded slowly. "I guess I didn't know how bad things had gotten." "You still have Robin," she added. "And the other kids. You have a life and so do I. It's just not together anymore." They sat in silence again, but this time it wasn't as heavy. The sun went down outside, turning the sky orange and pink. Kody looked around the flat again. "You did a good job here," he replied. "It looks good on you." "Thanks," she said with a smile for the first time. He got up and walked to the door. "I mean it when I say that if you ever need anything." "I know," she remarked as they walked. "And if you ever just want to talk, not about the past or fixing anything, just talk. You know where to find me." He stopped at the door. "Janelle, I miss us." She didn't move. "I miss who we were too, but I love who I'm becoming more." Janelle stood there for a while, listening to the silence as the door clicked shut behind him. After that, she turned around, lighted another candle, and sat on her comfy couch with a book in her lap. It wasn't the life she had planned for herself 25 years ago, but it was now hers. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough. But the Brown family home in Flagstaff, Arizona, was like a patchwork quilt made with love, struggle, and secrets. Kody Brown, the charming head of the family, stood in the middle, smiling for the cameras and holding his arms up to his wife and children. But even though the presentation had a bright lens, many people still had a question in their hearts. Kody moved inside the family area that everyone shared, with cameras following him. The crew was working on season 17 of Sister Wives. As usual, he was lively and funny, and his characteristic golden hair bounced with every nod. He was a passionate polygamist to the world, proudly balancing 4 marriages with the ease of a seasoned actor. But when the cameras stopped rolling, the stillness between the women suggested a different narrative. Mary sat alone in her room late at night, with a leather-bound diary in her lap. She thought back to when they first met, young love, shared aspirations, and the misguided idea that polygamy would make their relationship stronger. She wrote, "Why do I always end up alone?" Kody hadn't spent the night in a long time. She knew his love had faded like the wind in the desert, soft at first, then gone. But she stayed, tethered to the past by faith and the hope that the man she married would see her again one day. Christine had always been the happy one, the one who took care of the house, the kids, and the family. But on the inside, she was falling apart. One day, after another frigid talk with Kody, she walked out into the Arizona sun and didn't stop. The cameras only followed her thus far. She went back to Utah, where her heart could breathe again. "I can't keep pretending he loves us both the same," she subsequently told a producer. "Because he doesn't." Janelle was the level-headed one, the one who kept things cool. Kody and her had a peaceful friendship that was more of a collaboration than a romance. And that had always been plenty. Until it wasn't. Kody's regulations, his changing feelings, and his need to be in charge during the epidemic all made her trust him less. "Does he love me?" she thought to herself. She couldn't figure it out. But she knew one thing: she loved herself too much to not be seen. KODY's heart seemed to belong to Robin, the youngest and most recent wife. There was a real connection between them, but it cost them. The other wives could see it clearly. She was the favorite. Robin was caught between feeling guilty and feeling better, so she tried to bridge the gap, but KODY's presence in her home, his loyalty, and his time all pointed to a hierarchy that no one wanted to admit. KODY sat on a confessional chair, his voice low, with no cameras, just a recorder and a tired heart. He said, "I love them all in different ways. But not the way they needed, or the way they should have." He looked down, finally taking off his TV mask. Maybe love isn't enough when it's split 4 ways. I might have let them down. Years later, each wife went her own way. Others left, others stayed, and all healed in their own way. And what about KODY? He stayed the same, but he was different now. He was calmer and no longer the man with 4 wives and a camera team. A man understanding what love really means when the lights go out. But David Thomas had always wanted to have a big, loving family. He grew raised in a close-knit, faith-based society in southern Utah where he heard stories about unity, strength, and spiritual marriages. David was 42 years old and already had 2 wives, Eliza and Miriam. Both were strong, independent women who helped him establish a peaceful house amid the red cliffs of Moab. But David's heart was moved, not by anger, but by God's guidance. It happened when he met Christine, a lively, kind woman who had just relocated to town with her teenage son from a previous marriage. She was a widow who worked at the co-op and volunteered at the community center. At a town harvest celebration, David and someone else crossed paths, and everything changed for him. Christine was different from anyone he'd ever met. She was warm, smart, and possessed a quiet strength. David didn't urge her to join a plural marriage because she had never been in one before. But the more they talked, the stronger the relationship got. After a few months, David started talking about Christine with Eliza and Miriam. They were astonished, of course, but they didn't stop supporting them. The family had always been careful, respectful, and open with new members. Christine was asked to family trips, meals, and prayer meetings. She progressively began to like the notion of a plural marriage. Not because it was traditional, but because she believed in the life that David and his wives had built together, one that was full of purpose and unwavering support. The moment came next. David asked Christine to marry him on a quiet night under the stars in the desert. "I don't want to make you do anything," he replied, holding her hands. "But I know in every part of me that you belong in this family. I know for sure that there is a reason why you and I are together." Christine's answer was modest but firm. Yes. Not everyone was happy. Hannah, Eliza's daughter, spoke out about her worries. "It's hard to get Dad's attention," she said in a sad confession. "Now there will be one more wife and one more family. What does that mean for the rest of us?" As the wedding day got closer, things got more tense. Miriam wondered if Christine really knew what she was getting into. Christine had a hard time adjusting to the change from being in a monogamous relationship to dealing with the complicated relationships between sisters and wives. There were fights, tears, and long talks late at night when they weren't sure what to do. But David stayed strong. He kept saying how much he loved each wife and helped the family stay together through scheduled chats, counseling, and loving rituals. The ceremony was modest but very important. David and Christine said their vows under a hand-built wooden arch, surrounded by sagebrush and rock. All the spouses were there, and Eliza even fashioned Christine's veil. Miriam performed a song of blessing that was passed down through the years. And even though it was hard to deal with, everyone felt a tremendous feeling of serenity. David told the camera, "I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Getting married to Christine isn't about adding to the family just to have more people. It's about making a circle that was always supposed to be whole." Months after the wedding, things were different in the household. There was still some tension, but things were better. Christine found her groove by doing housework, taking care of children, and studying spirituality with the other spouses. David worked hard to be more present in each home, using what he had learned from his history to become a better husband, listener, and leader. Ethan, Christine's son, even started calling David Dad. The whole family gets together around a bonfire in the backyard to tell stories, laugh, and eat marshmallows at the end of the season. Christine smiles and replies, "I won't lie. It wasn't easy. But love isn't easy. It's about being committed to each other and the life we chose. And I'm right where I need to be." But the Brown family's memorable commitment ceremony had taken place 11 years before. The sounds of laughing, music, and vows uttered under a sky full of stars still hung in the air. The family had come together again, but this time it wasn't to celebrate a milestone. It was to remember one. KODY stood silently near the back patio of their shared family house in Flagstaff, looking out at the forested horizon. He wore the same leather bracelet that his wives had given him on that memorable night. It stood for love, togetherness, and strength. Mary wrote trust, Janelle wrote patience, Christine wrote joy, and Robin wrote faith on the inside of each one. The four wives were busy cooking dinner together inside the house. The kitchen was full of life as old country, soft rock, and that one 80s ballad they all secretly adored played quietly in the background. "Do you remember the lanterns?" Christine questioned as she stirred the garlic mashed potatoes. Mary grinned. "I remember being scared they would catch fire and burn down the whole place." They laughed. It was true. They had all written pledges to each other and KODY on paper lanterns the night of the party. The wind came up right after they ignited them, and one lantern flew sideways for a moment before rising slowly into the sky. Janelle joined in and stated, "We still joke about it." But that moment, when they all drifted up simultaneously, felt like a sign. No matter what the wind did, we would always find our way back to each other. Robin came in with a photo album she had just uncovered in the storage room. She put it on the dining table, and one by one, they all came over to look at it. It was wrapped in satin and had the words "Our Night Under the Stars" on it. Page after page showed photographs of them in earth tones and flowery prints, candles shining in mason jars, and their kids standing in a circle around them while they said their vows. Some of the pictures had tears in them, some were joyous, and some were sad. There had been fights, jealousy, and years of learning how to love one another through pain and flaws before that day. Robin stated, "It wasn't perfect, but it was real." KODY came into the room with a small wooden box in his hands. "I found something," he replied, raising the lid to see the handwritten vows they had all made that night. They had all penned a few sentences, some of which were poetry and some of which were basic, but all of them were true. He read Mary's first. "I promise to love you no matter what and stay even when it's hard." Then Janelle said, "I promise to give you space and support so that we can build our family with both strength and softness." Christine's, "I promise to help you celebrate your wins and carry your losses." And Robin's, "I promise to listen more than I talk and forgive faster than I used to." Mary's eyes filled with tears when she touched the old, slightly wrinkled paper. "I forgot mine said that," she remarked quietly. KODY finally opened his. "I promise to love you all equally, even when the world tells me I can't." The six of them, husband, wives, and their memories, stood there, swept up in the warmth of the moment. People on the outside had never really comprehended their lives. People who watched TLC saw bits and pieces, heard bits and pieces, and then made judgments or gave praise. But this was theirs. That night, they did their favorite part of the party again. Each person in the family lit a lantern under the stars. The kids, who are now older, joined in, giggling and remembering how they used to trip over their gowns or have trouble keeping the lanterns upright. As the lights ascended again, this time with new messages, new dreams, and fresh hopes, they all stood there, hands intertwined, and looked up. KODY remarked, "I still believe in us." And for that one instant, when the sky was full of floating light, they all did too. Hi, lovely viewers. Welcome to my channel. I'm Sabrina, and I hope you're having a great day. If you appreciate the video, please subscribe to the channel.